Hi everyone, this is Chris from the Tumblr Public Library, and today we're going to read Muncha, Muncha, Muncha by Candace Fleming and G. Brian Karras. And I'm reading this with permission from Simon & Schuster Publishing. For years, Mr. McGreely dreamed of planting a garden. He dreamed of getting his hands dirty, of growing yummy vegetables, and of gobbling them all up. You have a garden at home? I do. So, he hoed, and he sowed, and he watched his garden grow. Lettuce, carrots, peas, tomatoes. Yummy, yum, yum, said Mr. McGreely. I'll soon fill my tummy with crisp, fresh veggies. But one night, when the sun went down and the moon came up, 3 hungry bunnies appeared. Tippy, tippy, pat, pat. Muncha, muncha, muncha. What are you doing? Eat all the vegetables. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his gnarled sprouts, he was angry. So he built a small wire fence all around his vegetable garden. There, he declared. Nobody can get to my garden now. And the sun went down, and the moon came up, and tippy, tippy, pat, spring hurtle, dash, dash, muncha, muncha, muncha. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his nibbled leaves and gnawed sprouts, he was really angry. So he built a tall wooden wall behind the small wire fence, all around the vegetable garden. Humph! He huffed. Those flop ears will never get to it. Nobody can get to my garden now. Do you think that's going to work? And the sun went down, and the moon came up, and tippy, tippy, pat, dig, scrabble, scratch, 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 spring, hurl, dash, 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 muncha, muncha, muncha. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his chewed stems, his nibbled leaves, and gnawed sprouts, so he made a deep, wet trench outside the tall wooden wall behind the small wire fence all around his vegetable garden. Ha! He snorted. Those puff tails can't get under it. They can't get over it. Nobody can get into my garden now. Trench, good idea. And the sun went down, and the moon came up, and tippy, tippy, pat, dive, paddle, splash, 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 dig, scrabble, scratch, scratch, spring, hurdle, dash, 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 muncha, muncha, muncha. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his chomped blossoms, his chewed stems, his nibbled leaves, and his gnawed sprouts, he was furious. So he hammered and blocked, sawed and stalked, drilled and filled, and tapped and locked. And he built a huge, enormous thing before the deep, wet trench, outside the tall wooden wall, behind the wire fence, all around his vegetable garden. I've outsmarted those twitch whiskers for sure, he exclaimed. They can't get through it. They can't get under it. They can't get over it. Nobody, no way, no how can get into my vegetable garden now. What do you think? You able to get in? And the sun went down, and the moon came up, and tippy, tippy, stop. 3 hungry bunnies looked and smelled and touched the huge, enormous thing before them, and tippy, tippy, pat, the bunnies hopped away. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his untouched vegetables, he was happy. I beat the bunnies! He whooped and did a jiggly wiggly victory dance. Then he climbed over, jumped across, squeezed between, and crawled under until he reached his vegetable garden. Ah, sighed Mr. McGreely. At last, smacking his lips. He picked and pulled up lettuce, carrots, peas, tomatoes, and with his basket overflowing, he reached inside for something yummy. Muncha, muncha, muncha. He reached in. What did he find? Looks like the rabbit snuck in his basket. The end. Thanks, everyone.